We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project, the radio show discussing honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan back with Brian Timpone on this edition of Illinois Rising. And on Thursday, Brian, a new entrant to the governor's race, State Senator Sam McCann, who is a Republican. However, he's been at odds with Governor Rauner and the Republican caucus for the last couple of years since he decided to side with the public sector unions against the governor, particularly in that fight to remove the governor's collective bargaining rights with AFSCME that was advanced by Democrats and supported by Sam McCann. Now, McCann, state senator from Macoupin County, down near St. Louis, and then extends east to Springfield. He was able to withstand a well-financed primary challenge against him in 2016, financed by the governor, and involving, in the interest of full disclosure, my independent expenditure PAC as well. But McCann is a social conservative who has trade union support, and I think that's the main source of his support for launching this independent campaign, and it'll mean that he probably fairly easily gets the 50,000 signatures. I mean, he needs 25, but get double that. 50,000 signatures he needs with that kind of manpower behind him should be relatively easy for him to get the necessary signatures. That means he's on the ballot as an independent campaign. To the right of Bruce Rauner on social issues, similarly situated to him on some tax issues. To the left of him when it comes to public sector unions. So it really creates a complicated another front on a multiple front war Bruce Rauner is already fighting. And here was Sam McCann's announcement video in part.
They have failed us. Rauner and Chicago Democrats have led our state down the wrong path. Higher taxes, backward morals, and disregard for the rule of law is the Illinois they've created. It's time for a real transformation for the state of Illinois. I'm Sam McCann, and I'm running for governor to put Illinois on a path of prosperity and promise. As conservatives, we know and believe that you can't spend money you don't have, and that opportunity should exist for everyone, not just a chosen few. I'm running to restore what real, hardworking Illinoisans value the most: liberty, family values, and law and order. Our economic liberty has been diminished by Rauner's surrender to Chicago Democrats. We get higher taxes and utility bills, and they get kickbacks for their cronies. As your governor, I will work with the General Assembly to repeal Rauner's tax increase, reduce property taxes for hardworking families, and fight special interests that take money out of your pocket. Rauner's failure of leadership has led to the progressives' dream of having a state that attacks our religious liberty and allows taxpayer-funded abortion on demand. That failure of leadership has also included a war on the working class. Rauner and his brand of Republicans want to drag hardworking women and men back down the economic ladder so they and their cronies can pocket the profits. Working people have fought too hard for too long to allow Rauner and his rhinos and the Chicago machine to take it away from them.
Well, that's really interesting because it sounds like he's running in a Republican primary against Rauner, not in a general election as an independent candidate against both Pritzker and Rauner.
He sounds like you, Dan.
Well, yeah, I don't have that twang, but there's some elements where there's simpatico. I mean, there is. I mean, Sam McCann is a conservative, but he's a conservative, the interest of full analysis. He's a conservative who I would argue sold out to the public sector unions, and the public sector unions, and I'm talking specifically here, AFSCME, SEIU, and the teachers unions, are the main impediment to an economically vital state. So that's the complication McCann has.
And look, it also suggests a complication that Rauner and Pritzker have to some degree on confronting our issues with pensions and public sector unions. These are billionaires who don't have to worry about anything in their life. They don't have to worry about paying bills. And so when they're talking about cutting pensions and they're talking about real people and the impact that these cuts have on real people, it rings hollow. And that's where I listen to what McCann is trying to say, where he's trying to position himself. And I understand I understand his position, and really he's positioning himself as a everyman versus two billionaires, and I think that's pretty smart.
Well, I mean, think about how well Dan Biss did in the Democrat primary as the middle class candidate for governor against Kennedy and Pritzker, right? So there's an element of that appeal that McCann could make among Democrat primary voters if he focuses on, frankly, his alliances with the public sector unions. There's an element of that appeal he can make to that slice, middle-income families. And the Republican side of the ledger in the general election, if you focus on things like repealing what he calls, and I don't think illegitimately so, the Rauner-Madigan tax hike, focuses on property taxes a little bit as well. And then, in terms of getting the conservative base to turn out to vote for McCann, you talk about some of those moral issues, the rule of law he mentioned too. What is he talking about when he references the rule of law? He's talking about sanctuary state, which is unpopular among that middle income slice in both parties. So if McCann was well financed and if he can hold up under scrutiny, and I think those are two major ifs, because I know Sam, and he's going to have to grow significantly as a candidate to compete at this level. But if he can, then he has the potential perhaps to compete, but certainly to be disruptive.
And there's also the regional aspect here. Rick. State politics is a regional game.
Yeah.
It's never been ideological. There are obviously ideological issues that come up, but downstaters are always predisposed to support downstate candidates. Jim Edgar was the best example of that. He was pro-abortion and was very popular because he was put together, smart, fiscally conservative, ostensibly, and was from downstate, and he was downstaters' candidate.
Well, even a better comparison on that topic is 2006, the governor's race. The third-party candidate, Rich Whitney, Green Party candidate, who from downstate, and this is when you had Blagojevich under federal investigation, wildly unpopular, Judy Bartopinka, sort of goofy, wildly unpopular, particularly when Blagojevich had finished spending, tens of millions of dollars with her dancing with George Ryan. That was helpful. And so what Whitney did, getting, I think, 11% of the vote, he kind of, and this is what McCann could do, but this is probably the best case scenario for Rauner. Whitney didn't really net pull votes from Topinka. He just pulled both Blagojevich and Topinka's vote totals down. So he was the protest vote for people who were sickened within both parties by their party's nominee. And so, it was 49, 39, 11. He didn't really change the spread. He just pulled people's numbers down. That's probably the best Rauner can hope, because if he really does appeal to people other than as a protest vote, I'm talking about McCann in this instance, then it's almost assured that he will pull more votes from Rauner than he will Pritzker.
Well, he's going to pull more votes from Rauner because his immediate appeal is to public sector workers in the Springfield area. There are a lot of them. Sangamon County is a huge vote driver for Republicans. There are lots of Republican union workers, and I say public employee union workers, who are they vote Republican, and they don't like Rauner. And so this gives them a place to go. And I think you'll see that in Sangamon County and the surrounding counties where, again, it's significant, McCann's going to do really well.
Remember, by the way, just going back to 2006, just a little kind of bit of political trivia. How unpopular were Blagojevich and Topinka? So unpopular then when Rich Whitney's name was misprinted on some ballots as Rich Whitey. It didn't impact his vote. I don't think it impacted his vote. He got like 14% in Oak Park, over by where you live.
Yeah, look, I see the appeal. More green. No,
so you see the appeal of Rich Whitey or Rich Whitney or Sam McCann? Where's the appeal?
There is an appeal to somebody who's not a billionaire. I mean,
yes,
it's like the Brewster's Millions example.
Well,
right?
Well, especially too when one is a trust fund baby and J.B. Pritzker, and the other has been a dismal failure and prevaricator for 3 years. So and now you just layer on the wealth that insulates them from the vagaries of everyday life that middle-income families feel, and all of a sudden Sam McCann comes along with his hard hat on, and he's better than the other two guys, right? I mean, you can see that calculus.
When you look at Rauner's reaction to Sam McCann, initially. It's just a bunch of venom about all of Sam McCann's foreclosures and other faults in his previous life or in his pre-public life, and it's just more of the same. I mean, look, when you attack, people start to hate you, and Rauner's negatives are high. We know they're at 60%.
Yeah.
And he's going to keep running these negative ads against Pritzker, and how he's going to run these negative ads against McCann, and who's going to float above it all, talking about America and apple pie? Sam McCann.
If he's smart, and I agree with you, the tack of going after McCann for trouble in business, the billionaire attacking the struggling businessman in a state where everybody's struggling.
Because he's never had a failed business either.
Right. I mean, I'll tell you, boy, that has a real chance for a boomerang effect, and Sam McCann can offer whatever the truth is of some of these decisions he made. Hey, look, yeah, right, I've struggled in business like a lot of people have struggled to survive in this state, to thrive in this state, and it's because of out-of-touch political ruling class types like you and JB, who are two sides of the same coin, that people like me are struggling. I mean, that's a pretty easy to understand proposition.
Yeah, if I'm Rauner, I'm nervous, and I'm wondering how I protect my downstate base.
You think let's just be real. Even before McCann, there was no path. With McCann, I mean, I think Judy Bart Topeka, at least in the modern era, 39% was the low water mark for a Republican nominee for governor. I think you're going to see that record defeated this cycle.